Recently, I found myself looking up another problem involving Disney and their soulless remakes that has to do with the upcoming Little Mermaid film. The one that extends to fixing what these movies do in regards to their female characters virtually degrading the original message. So extending beyond the main controversies that everyone focuses on the new movie, comes something rather more important to the actual story itself, which of course the changes they are making to the movie, as what most of these films are supposed to do to make it feel more real, include stuff like changing the lyrics of certain songs confirmed by the original composer Alan Menken, and recently with what I saw being brought up by other YouTuber MJ Tanner about the novelization rewriting the ending of the movie. And like they all say, we just have to wait and see with all of these movies, sadly enough, where I'm not excited about watching any of them, but I do it so for your entertainment anyways, where it just does put a focus on Disney's rewriting of their very own history. Now of course it doesn't mean like book burning in any way, like literally removing the originals themselves, because they're still there and even the iffy ones get labeled on Disney Plus every now and then, but it's just that now in the modern era for stories that people love comes this new opportunity to misunderstand the characters of those very films to sell to the highest bidder without the majority even noticing them. Like most just go in expecting what they remember about the original and nothing else, like those little bits and pieces that are made to put some shallow message done by a shallow organization. It's how these simple fixes to portray as up to date in the modern times really degrades the story and the characters beyond anything good that they were trying to go forth. I mean, with this picture showing that Ariel is the one on the ship going to impale Ursula at the end is just horrendous in every way to the original story. It's doing something responding to those criticisms that people had about Ariel, which actually misunderstood what the story was about in the beginning. And of course for that reason we need to go again to look at the film's story. As we all know with the story, it mainly revolves around Ariel being a mermaid dissatisfied with her life, seeking the human world being far more interesting to her. The main conflict of the film is her dissatisfaction, which isn't shared by her father, who forbids contact with the human world at all for what they did in his past. And this is where you're supposed to find out what actually drives Ariel as her character for her own life and her relationships she experiences throughout the film, where somehow people are just not fully understanding what comes out of this. She has passions for something else in her life that her family disagrees with, searching for something new rather than the shackles of her life that our society is confined to like any other teenager would feel in their life. The great thing about Ariel is taking an interest in the mundane of human life, like the materials we hardly care about, such as the things she holds dearly like a loved one, the gateway into a new world that she wants to be a part of. This actually makes you appreciate the song a lot more to what it means to her and whatnot, which comes after fighting with her father, trying to remember what these things are, and dancing and walking amongst other things that she wants to discover. How it feels like freedom to her, which I think is a very empowering message, where the love at first sight that she finds with Eric is more of that reflection of humanity as a whole, seeing someone so simple and freely smiling and living life with others around him. He's a prince who actually seems very modest in style, not dressed very fancy as we would think with the others, and has a passion and love for the sea, as seen by having a castle by the sea and taking his ship out. This is where you can actually feel why she is falling in love with him for these simple reasons, seeing the life that she wants to be a part of so much, which is of course enough to save him after the storm, singing to him and making him enamored with the mysterious voice that saved him, that put him in this journey of intrigue. This is the connective tissue that we must discern into the current problem of the changed lyrics and the changed supposed ending, where of course now we have our main characters in a man and a mermaid who want more out of their lives, where the first main concern comes from the change to the song Poor Unfortunate Souls, which of course comes after Triton's misguided attempts to protect his daughter by destroying the things that she loves, how he didn't understand that part of her out of her experiences that he personally had with the human world, refusing to see the bigger picture here, where Ariel goes to Ursula to make this very deal to explore that world that she cannot at all. The lyric change in question has to do with something along the lines of the line that says, "The men up there don't like a lot of blabber, they think a girl who gossips is a bore. Yes, on land it's preferred for ladies not to say a word. After all, dear, what is idle prattle for?" What basically they're saying is now they don't want to make young girls feel like they shouldn't speak out of turn even if Ursula is manipulating her in this very situation suggested by these lyrics, which actually doesn't make any sense and takes the essence of her villainy out of the question. Like, how are you going to make Melissa McCarthy's character stand out as a threat if she's not going to say these awful things to put the seeds that the strong men do not like women who talk at all, perpetuating the stereotype that isn't true in the case of Eric, as what we see throughout the film, who warns about Ariel and whatnot, not forcing her to do or say anything when he actually wants to. Like, what is the point if you're diminishing the villain villainy of her character by not saying these lines in the song. Like, the tone of the song is clearly evil and whatnot, where despite what you want to say to young girls, it probably is already enough that you are seeing someone who is the main source of evil in the film who wants to put her tyrannical rule on the 7 seas. Like, it doesn't make sense when people already form this opinion not to actually trust Ursula, even when Ariel actually does, just to experience that away from her father's strict forbidden tone. It's just one of these shallow attempts to empower their characters that doesn't really work because it doesn't really understand anything about the film as a whole. Like, everything I said just isn't enough anymore to have a strong female character want more than what she has in that way, and I already hate how it is being ruined because of that in a remake that hasn't even come out. And that is something that continues in another song like Kiss the Girl as part of this revisionist bullshit. The article here states that this change from Alan Menken is that people have gotten sensitive to the idea that Prince Eric would in any way force himself onto Ariel, which of course is actually just a gross misunderstanding about what happens in the film. Like, it just really ignores it if you actually watch it completely, if you actually see his character. He is gradually warming up to Ariel to try to find this mystery of woman who's saying to him, where you just see it when you actually get to see Ariel experience human life for the first time, being everything she wanted, and you still see him shy away from the suggestion to kiss the girl as being made by Sebastian throughout the song. Like, I don't understand how you can derive Eric as being forceful to Ariel when he doesn't actually display that at all. I know within the context of the song that you can derive from that, of course, but it is important for them in order for Ursula to ultimately fail, where you just see him constantly tiptoe on this line while rowing the boat. He is very respectful of Ariel in every way to show her this world to her, where of course he just thinks she is a normal girl and nothing special like a mermaid. He's just one of the most respectful princes you could ever meet in Disney. I mean, I really don't know what you're trying to do here. Everyone who goes to see this are mostly there for the nostalgic reasons of the original, going back to my main point of doing these nitpicky things of social messages that really most don't like, that interferes with the movie's main themes in every way, despite how minor they actually seem. You just take away the things that make a villain, and then you take away the context to why Eric is struggling with this fact until the very last second when Ursula can ruin such plans herself. Like, it is out of fear that sets into motion these plans, and of course changes Triton's character feeling so much of regret for what he did previously to his own daughter. And it's something where we see Ursula use Ariel's voice to her advantage to manipulate Eric and take his humanity away from him and Ariel's connection to humanity, showing us who the real main threat is to the ideals of the films that lies within her manipulations to get what she wants, to rule over the seas, to drag them both out of to commit to that. Of course, we see that almost fail yet again when Ariel comes back and the other animals destroy the shell, giving her her voice back and making Eric realize that she was the one all along, where the voice actually gave him something greater out of his life and love and the connection between Ariel and the human world. But of course, in this very scene, she gets reverted back to normal, where Ursula gets to hold her hostage and forcing Triton to let his daughter live while giving the powers back to Ursula. And this is where we bring up that book again and what is the supposed outcome in the remake. Because for some reason, this mermaid who cannot walk on land or on surfaces of ships is the one impaling Ursula at the end instead of Eric, which completely misses the point about what happens in this film. This is the part where Eric joins in to try to save Ariel from that witch who took his humanity away from him for a time, which is bad because he could have drowned, but shows his dedication to her. Very important, where of course because of her father being transformed, she goes into this rage, inadvertently saving Eric by killing Flotsam and Jetsam. It's a contrast where both do their part to save each other, sending Ursula into a large fury where Ariel pleads him to go, but he stays for his love of her. Like, I'm just realizing how stupid this argument is, where they are trying to imply that Ariel didn't make choices for herself with no voice, or Eric is a typical arrogant jock, because from what I see rewatching the film, it couldn't have suggested that in any way, where they think that Eric is the one who couldn't find a way on the ship, but she did by flopping around for some reason. Like, literally in this scene, she is angered, focused on Ariel, trying to kill her because of what she did a little bit before in that very scene. Like, why would she be intent on killing Eric in this very scene? Is it because he's a man and we need to empower all of our females, including the villain in this conversation? Like, why does this book try to make her do that? I just don't understand understand the point when Eric is trying to do it, saving her from death, because he's very capable of doing so to control a ship and impaling her, where reversing that decision removes that sacrifice that is important to his character and of course the others. But of course, that is to be determined finally by the remake coming out itself, but having this book come out being official is worrisome to the highest degree, included with the lyrical changes and the pointless song additions that are being added. Like, yeah, I liked when Mencken added Evermore to the Beast's character, but when Aladdin came out and the La La Land songwriters came on board, they just added this revolting song that does not tonally fit within either both films of the original, and I worry for this one. But back talking to the ending with Eric on the beach and Ariel standing off is where we actually get to see the real character that needed change throughout the film, being Triton restored with its power and realizing his mistakes for someone who saved his daughter. The important piece that this book is apparently missing that allows them to connect the main themes of the movie and the joining of two worlds, of two people who went against most of the grain of what they know in their very worlds and created a better world as a result by the end of it. Like, the mastercraft to why The Little Mermaid is such a great story is because of the simplicity and a beautiful story that extends to a far more important message about being who you want and making the other generations realize that, where everything I am seeing currently in these little bits and pieces is removing those elements integral to that very story. It is just representing this stupid ass trend in all of Disney's creativity, where they're just removing the points of villains by having these minor changes and the context of the characters' actions in those lyrics. And once again, I just have to remind ourselves that this hasn't fully happened yet because the movie isn't out, but these changes should suggest to you that maybe you shouldn't watch it at all, because these movies continue to degrade the experience as official novelizations come out, and what we learned in the past, where you just should delegate it to me instead. I already made the mistake to watch the Peter Pan film that comes out a few days from now, so you don't have to, because I just really want to show you all of this for free of all the wrongdoing that they have made. And this comes from the issues that many people have had with the original film, which just misunderstands everything that is in it to begin with, and I think Disney should just realize that they are actually truly missing the points that they made, including when they actually made Cinderella in the first place, that doesn't take away from those experiences but adds on to it. Like, how in the hell is this the only one they managed to make work? I mean, I know the obvious answer for creative reasons, but everything else just adds to the most useless crap to those movies itself. Like, if you take away with this shit, then you remove the purpose that changed the King Triton at the end. Like, that doesn't even make zero sense in that regard. Like, what is Javier Bardem going to do in this situation? Well, absolutely nothing, because there's no point for him to do so. I mean, he already hates humans enough in No Country for Old Men and Pirates of the Caribbean, where all you can do in this situation is just to cement those facts because Ariel was the one who saved a human. I mean, I do realize that he could see how Ariel saved a human and didn't harm her, but man, that just still takes away from the whole point of what changed him and what Eric did throughout the film when discovering Ariel. But anyways, that's all I really have to say with this, with Disney still being soulless and there's nothing we can do about it, and there's nothing else I want to say anymore. So with that said, I'm all done, so goodbye.